Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Money in the Law on MyFM 101.3 and also on the Holliston Hub, brought to you from Holliston. And of course, we are broadcasting here at MyFM in downtown Milford, lovely downtown Milford. I'm your host, John Drowan, with Jay Marsden. Jay Marsden is from the Marsden Law Group.
Yes.
And I am from Main Effort Financial. We were with, of course, Tommy Harmon is our Holliston Hub representative. And we are here. We're starting, I'm trying to accelerate this a little bit. We're starting a little bit late.
Somebody's had a lot of coffee this morning.
It wasn't.
Somebody has certainly had their cup of joe.
I was a little bit late. Well, because today's kind of a big day at the office of Main Effort Financial. For those of you who care, it's a bittersweet day.
Whoa, do tell.
Day. Today, Sharon Doherty Clancy, who was
the great Sharon Doherty Clancy,
your dear friend, Sharon Doherty Clancy, is retiring today.
Whoa!
Today is her last day.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
wow!
Last day of work for Sharon, and a well-earned retirement.
Congratulations to Sharon.
She's been the heart and soul of Main Effort Financial for many, many years. And her job when she first came, like all I said is, your job is to make the client's happy.
Sure.
That's what you do.
And being in her presence makes people happy. It's the perfect job for her.
And the thing about Sharon is anybody who calls, and this is why
she's the CHO.
This is why people stay. This is why people, and I always tell the story. So I'll have people, I've had clients, been doing this for, a minute, right?
A couple of years.
So I have clients that are, that I was in the Army with. These are guys that I've known for more than 20 years. And they'll call up and they, wherever they are, like wherever they're living, right? And they'll be like, hey, how's it going? Great talking. I'll answer the phone. And they'll be like, yeah. I'm like, hey, so what's up? What's going on? Like, oh, yeah, I need to talk to Sharon. And I'm like, well, I kind of know what I'm doing. I can help you out.
Do you have anything I can help you out with?
I'm your friend. Yeah, you know what? Well, Sharon sent me an email about this, and maybe I should just talk to her.
Sure.
And then they give you like I'm sure you're busy. I'm like, no.
I know you got a lot going on.
I'm telling you that you're my friend. You're my dear Army friend.
Yeah.
I can help you. Maybe Sharon should be better. So that has happened more times than I can remember. So,
for all the obvious reasons.
So Sharon she was for many years. She's the heart and soul of Main Effort Financial. So we're going to miss her, but you know what? It's time for she's ready.
Look, she's probably ready.
Retire.
She wants to start cashing those pension checks. She wants to ride off into the sunset, Lifetime Medical. I love it. It
was funny when she told me, right? So it was about the time when she normally leaves during the day, and she walks into the office and she says, "Hey, I need to talk to you." And I'm like, "Okay,
let's talk."
Yeah, and she goes, "Yeah, so I'm leaving." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, it's like 2:00. You usually leave at 2:00 on Thursdays, right?" She says, "No, I'm leaving," and I'm like. And I kind of caught this. I caught when she said, "Oh, I want to talk to you." Usually it's not that, right?
Yeah.
Sharon and I have had this kind of older sister vibe, since we've been working together, right?
Sure.
Just where even though technically I'm more of senior to her.
You're a bit on the org chart. Yeah, you're a little higher.
However, I would call up and I would call to have her do and call back to the office. And she'd be, "Oh yeah, I'm glad you called. Listen, I need you to do this. You need to call this guy. You need to call that guy. You need to make sure you do this." I'm like, oh, and now I've forgotten why I called you.
Yeah.
So Sharon is today's her last day, so we're gonna miss her, but we wish her the best of luck, and she's going to be happy. Her husband Dennis, wonderful guy. He's been retired, so he's been kind of just sitting there tapping his watch, saying, "When are you going to wrap this up? We got stuff to do." Right?
Or he's saying, "You should keep on working. I hope you stay in. You want to really go the distance." You hear those stories all the time.
You do.
That does not apply to Sharon and Dennis, obviously. But you do hear those stories. Is your wife retiring? No, I think she's going to hang in there. Thank God.
And it's funny because in our business, right?
Yes.
We talk about retirement all day long, right? It's all day.
But this, But this is funny. So we've joked about this on the show before. Yes, in our business, but now it's in our lives.
Yeah.
This isn't I was joking with somebody the other day, and I said, when we first moved into town and the kids were little, and there was, you brought your kids to the first soccer thing they were doing, or the first whatever sports thing they were going to do, whatever activity they were engaged in, and there was some person who was trying to get to the finish line so they could move on because, you heard the story about, their kids are graduated and their kids are out of college and they're empty nesters, this nebulous term that you knew about because we're in the business and we know because we're in the business, but you hadn't experienced, you hadn't put the jacket on and tried it on a little bit, And so now here we are, not only playing the empty nester card, but our contemporaries, I say this all the time, our contemporaries are making major lifestyle decisions
Yeah.
and moving on for a whole bunch of reasons. This is one of them, right?
Yeah.
It's people near and dear. It's not theoretical anymore.
Yeah, it's close.
That's right.
It's close to home.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's funny because and that's what it was funny when Sharon told me that day. I'm like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Like, we've never had anybody retire from Maine after 5 weeks.
Yes.
How do we do this?
Yes,
Right?
that's right.
This
That's
is
right.
crazy.
Yep.
Yeah.
We get a cake. What is
Yeah,
one
wait,
cake? Is it
yeah.
cupcakes? What are we getting
Yeah.
here?
So we're going out to lunch, going out to a fancy lunch this afternoon.
Nice.
But and Joanna and I like
The dream breakfast. So you guys were running across the street, going high end for Sharon.
We might go there on the way back,
Nice,
for a
nice,
nightcap. Yeah. No, but we were talking about we need to have a party. We need to invite every client.
Sure you do.
And we wanted to do it, and I was ready to. And Sharon was like, "Oh no, no,
Do not.
No, that is the opposite of what I want, right?" And I'm
Yep.
like, and then we were just going to do it anyway. And like,
Yeah.
well, if someone says that is the opposite of what I want you to
Yeah.
do, you'd probably be like, you know what, let's. Better not.
Yeah, let's not wreck a lifelong relationship where somebody's really happy about everything they've done,
Right.
and then they're ready to move on, and then you kind of stick them going out the door.
Right,
Let's not
there
do
you go.
that. Let's not-
that
let's
was
not
fun,
do
huh?
that.
I did what you didn't want me to do.
But you know what's funny about this is you bring up a great point. Like because jobs, because people's careers, because things have kind of become so transient, you don't find these. Like, I mean, how long has Sharon been with you? 20-ish
No.
years?
So Sharon came. She has been this is her 15th year.
Okay, 15. Okay. So 15 to 20. You just don't see that as much
Nope.
as you used to see it, where
No.
people were, birth to death, right? Like
Yep.
start of the job, gold watch, big party, all that stuff, right? And it doesn't happen that way because everything tends to be so
Well,
transitional.
It's a great job. It's a
It's a
great
great
job,
gig,
which is
yeah.
why it was hard for her to leave. It's
Sure,
why-
yeah.
I mean, her husband was retired, and I'm like, and I would say, because I tell her I'm a retirement coach. I
Yeah.
get everybody like, let's go. Let's go. Let's make this happen, right? Because all roads lead to retirement. So I even had this conversation with Sharon. I'm like, listen, I don't want you to go, but what's your plan? Like,
Yeah.
what are you going to do? Like, it's time, right?
Yeah, cobbler's kid. Let's find out what's
Yeah,
going on
because
with
we
you.
always say, like 65 is different than 75 is different than 85.
Yep.
Let's just do it, right? And she's like, well, I really liked it, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, kid, stay.
Yeah,
Kid, stay.
perfect. Okay,
Yeah.
great. All right, make
Great.
these phone calls.
Yeah, see you tomorrow.
Call these people.
See you tomorrow.
Fill these forms out.
So we're
Well, congratulations
as
to
I
Sharon.
said, Sharon, congratulations to her. It's going to be great. Bittersweet. And of course, her and Joanne are very, very good friends.
Yeah, they're
right?
tight.
So,
Yeah, they're tight.
So I said, look, you're welcome to come back in anytime. Don't even call. Just show up. If you have to give Joanne kind of like the, what you did, like the little highlights of what you did over the
Sure.
weekend. Feel free to do that. 'Cause you've been doing that for the last 15 years. So
Yeah. No,
don't
that's
want to change too much.
But it's a big difference. It's a big difference for everybody personally. It's a big difference. Changes the dynamics.
Yeah.
Your day is going to be different. Joanne's day is going to be different. When you have an impact player like that, it changes the dynamic. It changes the dynamic.
So
and there's only one Sharon.
There's only one Sharon. So so she's wrapping it up. So congratulations to her. And then you know what? Life goes on. Let's go. Let's go. Just it's like from here to eternity. Let's go. We got a water fight.
Yeah. That's right. Well, that's exciting news.
Yeah.
Thrilled for them.
So,
how about you? What else is going on with you? We get a couple minutes here. We'll talk about what we're going to talk about here.
what else is going on with me? I think. I told you about my trip, right? I told you about
did.
So we just came back from a really, really good trip. And Lily's finishing up school, so we're kind of in this space where kind of everybody's the two they're coming home, so I'm happy about.
Sure, yeah.
I'm sick of them. It's hard when your kids are away for like that long, right? And then so the spring we got a bunch of things happening like over the course of the next month, and then it's the empty nest piece, right?
Yeah.
Because then my kids are like, well, two of them are going to be in New York. Lily lives in New York now.
Yep.
We're like, well, what about summer? What about
who wants to hang with mom and dad?
Yeah,
I got a
don't you
pool
guys
here.
wanna
Who doesn't?
go? Yeah.
Nobody wants to hang around.
And so we're working through all that,
Nice.
figuring that out.
Nice.
Give me more. I'm gonna have to work more too. Sharon's not gonna be there. So there's
Yep.
that.
Yeah,
There's
you're
that.
excited about that. I bet.
I'm very excited.
Yeah.
Very excited about doing more work. All right. So, and one other thing. So for when soon, all right, you said you mentioned you were motivated. So
You brought your
I did.
guitar in.
I
yeah,
did.
right?
I brought my
Yeah,
guitar in
yeah.
today. We're not gonna go at it today.
Okay.
Right? Just
all right,
because.
Good. All right.
I don't want to show you up or actually make a fool of myself because, when Jay and I play together, the accomplished guitar player plays, he kind of covers up for me a little bit.
Yeah,
it's how you do it.
It's all through rock and roll.
It's what rock and
That's
roll.
right. That's exactly what it is.
It's part of rock and roll.
Ask Pete Best. Yep, that's right. Yep.
But I think it's time.
All right.
I think it's time.
All right.
So
We'll put a session together.
we'll put a session together. All right.
Yep.
All right. So what do you got? What's on your mind today?
Nothing. Same old. Just go back. It's down south for a little bit. Just checking in down there.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. You had your trip. Yeah.
Always fun. Always a lot of laughs down there. And and kind of on the kid front, my daughter. Congratulations to Riley. She just passed her. You have to take a separate middle school, like sixth grade teacher test.
Wait. What? There's a middle school teacher
There's
test?
something specific to whatever grade you're teaching, and so she had.
Of course there is, right?
So
is it like a real world test where they have actors where middle
school actors, they
start
put you
dropping
in a room.
F-bombs at you and you're like
So whatever the testing program,
Miss Marsden, what is this? What is this a picture of?
Whatever the testing protocol looks like, she's passed
she did it. Yeah.
And so she thinks that that's going to be the gateway to a full-time position at the school she's at right now.
That's excellent.
Which she really likes. But it kind of feeds into what you were just talking about. That puts her on the North Shore, right up, north of Boston, for potentially a longer period of time. And then, you start to settle in and you say to yourself, you know what, I really like it up here. I'm making a life for myself up here.
That's the thing, right?
And I'm like, well, what about the life that I built for you guys down here? How come nobody wants to? Right. So all that stuff.
And you remember that time. You remember when we were there, right? When we were in that time period in our lives, right? I mean, and the kids you don't realize it because, everything's that all you're thinking about is the short targets, but you're at that place. Like she could potentially go up there.
Yep.
And I'm here. They love me at the school. I really like my job.
Yep.
I meet somebody and I end up I make friends up here and this is kind of becomes you don't want to say it, but it's my home.
That's right.
That's right. I mean, of course, there's always my home where I have, my parents always going to live. Yep. And they're never going to throw my stuff away. Except my old man threw my stuff away the day I graduated college. The day I graduated.
That's a man with a vision.
I mean,
he's throwing the gauntlet
I came home and he's like, hey, congratulations. This is great. But he threw away my comic book collection, my baseball card. I mean, this is worth real money.
Honus Wagner.
Who needs this?
Babe Ruth,
right?
Bye-bye Ruth.
He's like, look how clean your room is. I'm like, thanks, Dad. You threw away all of my stuff.
Collectibles.
Clothes.
Yep.
Oh, you haven't worn these clothes in at least 3 months.
That vintage, Dad. Those are big money online now. Big
right.
money.
So, but it's true. So Riley, she could end up kind of settling up there.
Yeah.
And, although it's not, far, it's not a plane ride away.
No.
But she's not.
It's not
there.
pop-in distance.
She's not. Yep. She's not there.
Yeah.
She's not right next door. She's not 15 minutes away.
It's a journey. It's a journey.
It's a destination.
It requires planning. Yep. That's right. So
so that's one of those things where
Kendall probably gonna stay in New York this summer because she's working on some movie sets. So she's probably same thing, right? Another summer's gonna go by and they're gonna be like, yeah, I got it. We'll see you when we see you.
Yeah, and it's always kind of we talk about this with our clients all the time. Say when we talk about retirement, where you're going to end up. Well, oftentimes you're going to end up kind of where your kids end up, right?
Yeah,
and if
maybe.
If your kids are in this they're in this transition period where they're that maybe they're looking for their first job or they get their first job or they're in a relationship with somebody who has a job and then they have to move. So it's in this kind of transient period where if you don't, where you my kid could end up in Chicago. And if my kid's in Chicago and we're here, if I get 2 kids and both of them are in Chicago, why am I living here in Massachusetts?
Well, this brings us to kind of the topic of the day, right? Which we'll jump into after the break, which is how you need to be intentional about this part of the planning and have the conversation. And we'll talk about that and talk about what those decisions mean.
That's so open-ended. We're going to have the conversation.
We're going to have the talk. We're going to have the talk. That's what we're going to talk. We're going to talk about the talk.
Yeah, when that gets teed up, right? Hey, listen, why don't you swing by later on? We're going to have the talk. And you're like, whoa.
Yep.
Whoa.
Whoa.
I don't know. I don't know what's coming.
That was uncomfortable the first time. That was uncomfortable the first time it happened. Not sure I want to go through it again. And I didn't have any choice the first time. This time I want to opt out of this.
It's worse before it gets better.
That's right.
Okay.
That's exactly right.
All right. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Come back. We're going to have the talk.
We'll talk. All right.
And we're back. My FM 101.3. Jay Marsden with the Marsden Law Group. John Drohan, Main Effort Financial. Tommy is on the bag with us.
Speaking
today.
of the bag, Tommy
And
had his
Tom
first
just,
round.
yep, he just put his first round in the ground for golf, and he said he was doing all right, felt all right,
He's a ringer.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was whoever he was playing with, he was just sandbagging them for the next time he plays them.
Yep. God, I'm so rusty. Let's make it interesting.
All
Let's make it
I
interesting.
have is $100 bills. That's all
You know,
I brought.
tell you what, just
I have 7 of them.
just to keep us all in the game. Just to keep us all in the game. Let's see
Yeah.
what happens here. Yep.
Yeah.
Hustle, hustle, hustle. That's it. Yep.
So he makes a living.
Yep. Tin Cup Tommy, they call him. That's what he's doing over there.
It's
Yep.
so
Making
easy.
it happen.
Yeah,
Making it happen.
it's like shooting fish in a barrel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So we talked before the break about the transition, these different parts of life where the kids are moving around, trying to figure out what your retirement planning is going to look like. John's got people retiring. They're sick of it. They just need a break from the grind every day. You're just, breaking rocks over there, and they're done. They're done. They're moving on. And what does that mean? What does moving on mean? How do you kind of counsel your clients around this? How do you, as the clients or as our clients, how do you think about this? What goes through your mind? One of the things I tell people all the time is I chose this area of law to practice in because I'll walk the walk. I will walk the walk with all of my clients. I will experience and go through all of the same things with my clients, which makes it obviously much easier for me to empathize with what people are going through.
That's right.
And talk about these things. And they're real. They're real. And
Yeah.
as a lawyer, it's not just paperwork. It's not just the documents. It's not just the words on the paper. It's how do those fit into your lifestyle?
I love that kind of talk.
Yeah.
As a lawyer.
Yeah.
It's not just paper.
No, it's not.
That's right.
No, it's not.
It's
No.
not. That's right. It's the law.
Well, we know
It's
it.
understanding what the law is.
We don't get phone calls from people that say, in paragraph 6, page 7, I want to talk about this.
Because they don't read it.
They don't read it. But the other thing is that what they're asking about is there's some situation, there's a problem, and it just happens to unfortunately need a lawyer's advice and guidance to sort of walk them through it. And we've given them the tools, but the tools aren't necessarily always apparent as to how they're going to fix the problem. Just like you guys give all your clients the tools and say, look, I can tell you how to retire. I can tell you how to put the numbers together, but there's another part of it. How do you figure it out? How do you talk about it?
Yeah. So the idea of being intentional is interesting. The idea of saying, okay, if I'm getting ready to retire, if I'm getting ready to make a life decision, like we're going to change. So maybe we're not going to retire, but as we were talking about, if my kids are kind of relocating somewhere, maybe it's something that we need to think about. We need to relocate. And like, what are the things that kind of go along with that? And, first is, can we afford to? Is it financially, does it work into our retirement plan? Because remember, that's a big part of it, right?
Well, let's talk about, if you're going to relocate, the first thing you're going to say to yourself is, well, I mean, what are we locating out of to relocate into?
Right? Why are we doing it?
Why are we doing it? Right. And by the way, and where do they go? So if your kids all land if they all land in New York City, I'm just going to guess, the area way better than I do, that probably is a somewhat expensive area to kind of move into from a lifestyle perspective.
Yeah, there's a few people that live down there.
Right.
There's
and it might cost some money. And it's probably a little more expensive than, let's say, the Pioneer Valley up here in Massachusetts. Right?
It's a little bit more, and you're kind of, quote unquote, bang for your buck.
Right.
Might not go as
it's different. It's not even really a bang anymore, right? It's more like a thud.
Yeah,
it's more like a thump.
It's more of like a, did you hear that?
That's right.
No.
Yep, that's exactly right.
No.
So that's a big, we see people that move here for their kids. Clients come into our office and say, hey, we just relocated here because my kids moved here. Where'd you come from?
Yeah.
Right? And we sold a place in California to move here. And is it a lateral move?
Yeah.
Right? Did you sell your place in California for $700? Bought a place here for $700? Nothing's different.
Yeah.
Right? Great. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Did you come up here from Iowa? Well, it's a little more expensive, right?
Yeah.
Did you move up here from, I don't know, Florida, right? Someplace in Florida that might not be as affordable as a place up here might be. Who knows? I don't know.
So that kind of that first, if you're trying to make this transition, if you're like saying, okay, it's time, we're planning on doing this.
Sure.
The first thing is, the obvious question of why, right?
Yep.
So why is always a big, and then the second question is, can we afford it? And like, what is, financially on paper, what does that look like? And then the other part of it is, and this is kind of a big part is, oftentimes, people will do this when they're retired, right?
Yep.
So retirement, and you understand this. People, when they retire, they're in a different mindset, right?
Yep.
Like if I'm retired, then as great as it is, and with all the freedom and flexibility that I have, one thing that I don't plan on, or is not like in my mind, is that I may have to go back to work. I may have to go back to work.
Right. Yep.
So once and how often do you see people kind of unretire? Unless it's something that drives them, unless they're like, I just unretire because, someone put some golden handcuffs on me, or because I didn't want to, I retired too early.
It was lights
ready.
out opportunity fell on my lap. There was no
Or
way.
I just wasn't ready,
That's
right?
right.
So,
That's right.
if people are ready and they retire, they're not going back.
Well, not only are they not going back, but most people, when you retire, I mean, remember, think about how fast things change.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care what your background is, right? You step away from your industry for a couple of years, and then you want to come back into it. Like, you're a dinosaur.
It's old news.
You're arguably
Yeah.
you're arguably, that's the risk you run. Is like, look, you are old news. You're
Yeah.
like, you're gone. We've forgotten about you, right?
Yeah.
I don't care how many connections you're keeping up, because all those connections you had, they're retiring,
Yeah.
right? And they're getting
old
out of
news
it.
too.
Yeah. So, we're all kind of moving through this together. So it gets really hard. So it's hard to unretire back into the same level. That's different than just saying, I'm going to go pick up a job.
Yeah, but even that, right? So that's a decision that you make, right?
Yep.
So if you're in this position where, like, I'm in this life transition, I have to be able to afford it, right? And as a retiree, I think as a non-retire, like for you and me, we don't really we think like, okay, you know what? If I need to financially afford this, I can figure this out. I can make more money. I can do this. Perhaps I can get like an additional job as, for you, it could be a guitar lesson instructor.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Or a golf coach.
Yeah.
Tom, same thing, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Me, more of like a fitness instructor, I think.
Probably.
Right.
Most definitely. A model. Yeah.
Well, David Beckham, he models.
Obviously.
He's in his 50s and he models.
Yeah.
So it's not out of the
Yeah.
question.
You guys are often
I
confused.
just need a couple more tattoos.
Yeah. Often confused.
I'm gonna be friends with him.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll talk about that. I'll tell you about that.
All
Just
right.
remind me about it before we go. David Beckham and I will be friends. I'm writing it down. Write it down. So you're at this place where we could figure it out if we needed to. But if I'm retired, I'm not going to be able to, and I'm not coming in with that mindset. So if my financial situation changes because I'm making this lateral move, I'm moving down to the New York area, or I'm moving to California, someplace where it's not cheap to live, then that has to be figured out. Like that has to be built into my retirement plan.
Yes. We talk about the intentionality, right? This is exactly it. When you're running all your numbers based on living in Holliston, for example, those numbers dramatically change when you say, hey, maybe we're going to move down to New York and live with our kids in the city, or closer to the city where our kids are. Oh, does that change all of the things? It does.
Yep.
And if we don't do that with enough time, right, we don't get in front of that, then we want to do it, but we just can't afford to do it because we didn't know we were going to do it.
Yep.
Right. And they didn't plan for it.
Yeah, the other thing that happens with intentionality is people just use the word, right? Our intention is good. Like our intention is we're going to move down there. So we intend to do this because this is what we think is going to be best for all of us. For us, me selfishly, for my children, because we'll be closer, everything will be great. But maybe we base this on something that's like unrealistic. And this is very common in the financial planning world, where people are like, well, listen, you know what? If I retire, if I move down to New York, I'll still be able to draw, my, $30,000 a year out of this account.
Yep.
And you're like, well, you know what? Your account might not be able to support that level of an income, or you may, or you're kind of right on the edge, right? You're kind of right on that. Well, we take 5%, 6% of our portfolio.
Yeah, we don't
as
love
an
it.
income.
It's a little high.
As an income, we do this, and that just about makes it. We're just there. We're kind of like, we're not like making any money, but we're not really losing any money. We're kind of like right walking the tightrope there. You change your situation, that could change just like that. Like you could be just one thing, maybe a property tax bill, maybe just
a medical emergency.
There you go.
Something comes up. Yes.
Right. So if you don't have that kind of built in from a contingency standpoint, which you may or may not see coming, that could also change. That could change your entire situation. Well, and put you in a place where you can't do it, or you're not prepared to do it.
And the takeaway from this conversation is, look, you don't have to have it all mapped out, like down to the tiniest detail, right? This is really big picture thinking about, where do I think I'm going to end up? What do I think is going to happen? How do I think this exercise is going to go, right? And if the answer is, yeah, probably potentially moving to the kids, closer to the kids, what I would suggest is you have a conversation with the kids, because they have to know that you're thinking that this might be what you want, because your kid's plan might be, well, look, we never thought I use New York as an example. We never thought we'd stay in New York forever.
Yeah.
We thought we'd have a 5 or 6 year run down here. We'd love it. But at some point we knew we weren't going to be here permanently. We were planning on moving back home,
Coming back.
closer to you guys. What do you mean you just put the house under contract? Actually, we love that house. One of us wants to buy it.
Yeah.
We didn't know that, right? So you need to kind of, again, you want to have this conversation, not because you're trying to direct their life and they're not trying to direct your life. You just want to get on the same song sheet to make sure that you're kind of looking at this the same exact way, just like you should be doing this with your spouse, right? Because Nana thinks, of course I want to wake up every day and spend 15 hours a day with my grandkids. That's what I've dreamed of, right? And, Pop's saying, over my dead body, absolutely not what I was planning on. I don't mind seeing them. I don't mind hanging around with them.
I just want to know when does that transition happen? When Kim and Jay turn into Nana and
I have
Pop?
no idea. No idea.
Well, wait till a few grandkids show up, right?
That's right.
You have more than one, right?
That's right. You have something going on. But this is a real thing. This conversation needs to, everybody needs to have this conversation. You just need to be talking about it because, and again, you're not making decisions for each other. You're not deriving each other's lifestyle decisions. You just want to make sure that everybody's going to think about it the same way, because everyone makes all these assumptions and then they don't play out and then everybody's mad.
Yeah.
And so you want them to kind of feel this thing out a little bit.
And it's going to take time, right? And it may not even be a decision. It may, like, step one just may be like, so if you could draw a picture of what you think your retirement's going to be, what's the best case scenario?
Yeah.
Right. And then your wife draws that picture. And then you say, well, that looks a lot like my picture, or my picture's a slightly different, or even just the question of, like, so if the kids weren't going to be here, what do we want?
Right.
Like, what do we want? Do we want to be in their lives like every single day? Or do we want to have the capability? Do we want to kind of maintain our lifestyle up here? Or do we have to maintain our lifestyle up here because we wouldn't be able to afford to move to Manhattan or wherever? And then so then what's the next best thing? Oh, we go down, and that's, that conversation, like you said, with the kids, like what's their capability? What's their feasibility? And, you may not get an easy answer. There may not be an easy answer. It may not be something that you can figure out, like, in one fell swoop. It may take a little time. It may take a little evolution,
right.
As situations start to become more and more clear.
Well, and that's a great point. And the answer is, this is not a one-time conversation, right? This is something where you broach the subject, right? You have a discussion, you talk about it, and then you back away, right? Because it can get tense. Well, there could be two dramatically different opinions on this, and things can get hot about it. And you're like, you know what? Hold on. Now we have a general idea where each other's coming from. Now we can step back, little détente. Let's figure out what this looks like.
I mean, you brought up a great point, though. I mean, so think about it. It's what you don't want to do, what you don't want to come across is like the overbearing, like, parent now, right?
Right.
Because, I mean, think about it. Like, if your old man, like, came up to you and was like, all right, this is what me and your mother are going to do. We're going to do this, and then what are you going to do? And like, and puts the pressure on you, and you're like, okay, that's all well and good, but I'm still figuring it out. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Right, but that, I agree with you, and that's why we say the approach needs to be discussed, in a way that everybody says, look, reference this show. Hey, I was listening to these guys on the radio. They were talking about how the importance of the planning is.
Us. We're the
right?
bad guys.
Oh yeah, always blame the lawyer because nobody likes lawyers, right? And you just say, look, these guys brought up a great point, right? And their point was that we should be a little bit more open, if we can be, about what a discussion looks like, about what everybody's plans are, because I think we want to make sure that if we are coordinating our plan. Now, by the way, your kid's answer might be, let me tell you what my plan is. My plan is to graduate school and get as far away from you two as I possibly can.
In so many words.
That could be. They might not say it that way. I want to see
the West Coast. Yeah.
They may. I want to travel the world,
yep.
Which means I never want to be prepared for that. That's a possibility.
I absolutely would live in Europe. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Your mother and I watch all those shows on TV. We think Rick Steves is a genius. We would love to go do that. That looks like so much fun. And they're about as Americanized as American. They'd never been further than the Dadeland Mall, right? And they're like, I'm totally going Europe. I could totally do that.
We went to Canada last year. It was amazing.
Yep. I'm going to get one of them passaportes. Is that what the kids call it today? All right. Let's take a break because everyone's going to lose their mind.
All right. We're going to take a quick break. I mean, no one's losing their mind, but you know what? Everybody's having fun. And this is all important stuff. This is
It
all
is important
It's
stuff.
all important things. And we laugh about it and we joke about it because it's, you know, it's not, is it as easy as we make it sound? Probably not. However, it's one of those things where once you do it, you'll realize it's not as hard as you think. Don't go away. We'll be right
I'll
back.
work on thinking about that for a second. And we're back. My FM 101.3, Jay Marsden with the Marsden Law Group. John Drohan, Main After Financial. Tommy here from the Holliston Hub, keeping us all on the skinny here with the camera.
I don't know about skinny.
No,
Yeah,
no?
skinny.
Yeah. Speak for yourself. Speak for yourself.
I mean, yeah, that's true. You
Yeah.
look good. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, it's Corona and fried clam season pretty soon. That'll really help keep
What's
the LBs off.
what's the Key West menu? Like, what's your favorite place and what's your kind of go-to food in the Key?
It's a ton of fish, a lot of grouper, a
Right? Yeah.
a lot of grouper, a lot of yellowtail.
Yeah.
And we went out last week. Went down there for dinner. Had a couple of great restaurant experiences. I mean, there's no end to the great restaurant scene down in Key West.
Really?
Yeah.
So if you like just back like off the top of your head, how many say top-notch restaurants are there that you'd go to?
I'll bet you. Like if you said to me right now, we're going to go to these many great restaurants for the next how many days?
Yeah.
Like for one meal a day, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
You're talking somewhere probably at least 50.
50.
Yeah.
In Key West.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's every manner of what
Sure,
what you're looking for.
right,
Like you
yeah.
want to just go and get something like chill on the beach, you know, kind of like a beachside, you know, fish sandwich. Great.
But worth making the trip. Worth trying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you, I mean, the restaurant scene is very robust. A lot of great places to go. Menus are fantastic.
And it's funny, if you go with Jay, often, you know, probably 4 out of 5 times, I'm like, hey, Jay, how's it going? Right?
Maybe,
That's right.
maybe. But I mean, but the other thing is you get all, like, you want to go and you want to get some Cuban food? They get phenomenal Cuban restaurants down there. You want to get a phenomenal breakfast? You know, go someplace with a lights out breakfast? Go and get like the best lobster eggs Benedict you've ever had in your entire life.
Oh.
You want to get, I mean, there's just no end to the great restaurants you go to down there.
So
And,
that's the reason why you go. That and the people, right?
people are fantastic. A nicer, more, you know, sort of a welcoming group of people you'd never meet between the people who work there, the people who live there. You know, the motto, the motto for Key West is one human family, and it truly is. I mean, we've had the good fortune of bumping into a bunch of people on, you know, again, from all kinds of walks of life, and everybody couldn't be nicer.
Yeah.
Couldn't be nicer. And why wouldn't you be nice? I mean, you wake up, it's 75 degrees. You look this way, there's the ocean and a palm tree. You look that way, there's the ocean and a palm tree. I mean, you know, you can't get away from
I
it.
have 38 more good restaurants to go to.
And then usually it starts all over again, right? I mean, then, you know, there's
Yeah.
a phenomenal Argentinian steak place we go to on a pretty regular basis. There's a lot to do.
It's
There's
good
a lot to
living
do.
down
Be on the
there.
water down there. It's great. There's a lot going on. Very exciting.
All right, so we're talking about, you know, about kind of planning and doing this intentional type of plan, like approaching your planning of kind of that like next chapter of your life, kind of, you know, whether it be, you know, I'm retired and I'm going to move and I'm going to relocate.
Yeah, I mean, we talk a lot at the office with people about lifestyle planning, and so, you know, again, like this is like, you know, try to take the numbers out of it and take all this other stuff, but you know, we just joked about this. Like when you're sitting at dinner, you know, with your spouse, let's say, and you're relaxing, and it's kind of like it's what you sort of wanted to do, and then you think to yourself, and you say to yourself, well, think about your family, like. I mean, again, it's all about dynamics. I mean, is it something that you envision, you know, lots of time together where you're spending, you know, inordinate amounts of time together? Or is it something where, you know, your kids are going to be super independent, so you need to be more intentional about the times that you get together?
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people would say, look, I got one kid on the West Coast. I got one kid who's down South. We're up here in Boston. So you know what? We don't get to see each other because they're never coming together like that. But here's what we do. We pick this window, this week, whatever it is. You know, you see a lot of people go down to like the Carolinas. They rent one of those giant beach houses down there that, you know, have 13 bedrooms, and they go, and that week in the calendar is
Think about
sacred.
your mom and dad. Like your mom and dad would go to Florida every year.
Yep.
So when they're not there, you have to be intentional about when are we going to get together?
Correct.
What is that going to look like? You know, we have to, you know, the schedules that need to be coordinated and all
Yep.
that. So,
Yep.
and then when we get there, that's what we're going to do. You know,
Well, and remember, once the kids get older, it's not just mom and dad's schedule. It's this kid got this sport, this kid got this sport, this kid got this event, this kid got this event. And so, and you know, you and I both can talk all day long about how, you know, some of these sports and some of these events, there's just no end to the season. Like before you'd say, all right, well, you know, basketball's over, baseball's over. Now we have nothing to do. Now we would use this time. That doesn't happen anymore.
Mhm.
It's just this never ending series of just, you know, scheduling.
And it's,
That's
then
right.
It ends,
That's right.
right?
That's
Then it
right.
ends.
But this goes back to this idea of, you know, if you know that that's going to be the case, you need to take the time to say, look, we know we're not going to see everybody catch as catch can because the schedules and the geography don't lend itself to that. But we are going to do this as the workaround, and everybody gets, you know, builds up around it. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, you get your mom's got the place down the Cape. That's a great place for everybody, and you guys get together on a pretty regular basis. You have some stuff that's kind of hard written in the calendar, right? It's not written in pencil, right?
Nope.
This is when we're going to get together. This is what we're going to do. And that gives you, okay, I know I'm at least going to see everybody now. That type of stuff, right? That type of stuff lets everybody kind of say, hey, this is how we do it.
Yeah.
It could be different from the way you guys do it. This is how we do it.
And with all the planning that Jay and I talk about, everything is built around flexibility, right? Everything's, you know, we say it, you know, we say it all the way up until you're 109 years old. You have to be able to be flexible. You have to be able to react to things, right? So you may be in this situation where you have like your, you know, let's say you have kids in a different location than you, and you're like, you know what, we get together 3 times a year and we really make an effort to do it. And you're like, you may say, you know what, that's fun. It's not enough. This isn't working for me. How do I, you know, what do I need to do in order to make this change, right?
Sure.
I wanted to go back. You were talking about how, because it just dawned on me. So, you know, you know, that conversation, you know, that idea of like, okay, you want to talk to your kids, get them, you know, get their kind of feedback, get their opinion, get their, like, what does your vision look like? And then like, what does ours look like? And we mentioned about, you don't want to be kind of that overbearing.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
So I worry that, and I think my children might worry this as well, that I could just kind of accidentally fall into that.
Be that guy? I'm shocked. I mean,
And
they've reached out to me. They've reached out to me and said, we're a little concerned that he's going to show up on our doorstep. Either give us a heads up or steer him clear.
But I can only imagine being like the significant other of one of my children and being like, tell your dad. Like, I don't want.
Your dad's here again. Your dad's here again. Hey, guess what? Your dad's here. Wasn't he here yesterday for coffee?
But that's tricky, right? Because think about it. If you were like, let's say you were the husband of you know, somebody, and your father-in-law was like, all right, this is what's going to happen. Like, you'd be like, whoa, dude, you're not telling me how to, you know, where I'm going to live, what I'm going to do.
Well,
right?
then let's be clear. And that's not what we're suggesting. We're not suggesting that you go to your kids and you say to your kids, I want to be very clear.
Yeah.
We're not suggesting that you go to your kids and you say, look, we have to coordinate all of our moves. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, as you move into this next phase of life, you want to try to keep the lines of communication open if they need to be, so that you can kind of manage your own expectations.
Managing expectations.
And let your kids manage their own expectations.
Clarify your expectations, right? And then manage those expectations.
Then
lower your expectations. I mean, that's the big thing.
We have clients that, let's just, you know, we'll call it that they're probably not on the same wavelength as their kids, and they never have been.
Yeah.
Okay. And now they're getting older, and now they're realizing that they need some help and some assistance in certain aspects of their life. And for whatever reason, there's a dynamic at work here. And the clients will say to us, you know, I don't have a really solid support network because I never had that type of relationship with my kids. We're a little bit estranged. You know, it's not that we don't talk to each other, but there's a dynamic at work here. And so I'm trying to figure it out. Right.
Yeah.
And so that's a conversation. That's a conversation that says, well, then you're probably going to be a lot more responsible for your long-term care costs and things like that. And so we need to build that into your conversation.
Because I'm not going to be responsible.
Well, no, but I mean, this goes back to this whole, like, you know, I want to protect my house for my kids. And you're like, well, guess what? Based on the conversation that we have, I'm not sure that's an option for you. And you're trying to use that as a way to kind of make up for a lifetime of dysfunction. No. You need that to take care of yourself, because the kids aren't flying back from Seattle to take care of you.
Can't do it.
And you're not moving out there to go live with them because you can't afford it.
Yeah.
So you have to start, you know, building. This is the reality of what your situation looks like, and you have to deal with it.
Yeah. And I think this goes back to the beginning of the show, right? So we've been talking about this for going on.
We've been talking about this since we first
for a
flipped
long time.
on the
We've
microphone.
been talking about this, but since we got into the business, right? Since you became an attorney, since you became a financial planner, we talk about this like blah 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 blah. Let me tell you all about it. And now it's like we're talking about it because we are right there.
Because
are in
you know
that
why?
space.
Because we have to talk about it.
Yeah, because we have to
this
talk about it. And so which is strange, which is weird. Like we were saying, like, you know, with like people are actually that we know are retiring and people are actually like, you know, moving away. Like our contemporaries are moving away because their kids are gone. They're empty nesters. Like, wait, I'm an empty nester. Do I have to move away? You know, like all of this is kind of happening right now. And, you know, it's time for us to kind of listen to our own advice, you know?
Well, listen to your own advice. But here's the other thing. You don't want to do this because your friends are doing it.
Well, there's that,
right? I mean, this is
it's just your own. Everybody has their own, is on their own glide path.
Right. And I'm not saying that because your friends have made a move, that doesn't stir a conversation inside of you to say, is that something that we find appealing or is that something that we need to be thinking about? But the answer is not, well, Tom and Mary sold their house, so we need to sell our house. Tom and Mary are moving to the Cape, so we need to move to the Cape.
You don't want to fall in that trap.
Even though we couldn't find the Cape without a GPS, we've never been there. We've shown zero interest in doing that.
Let's go.
But that seems to be what everybody's doing. So we should go do that because you know what's going to happen? Then the kids are going to want to come down and hang out with us like their kids
Every
do.
time.
And the answer is, well, maybe not. I mean, they don't have
too
that.
far, yeah.
That's right. They're too far or they just don't have, they're not drawn to that. So you can't make these are internal, inside the Beltway conversations that you need to have with each other and with your family and say, look, you know, what's the game plan here? You know, I mean, I'll be like flat out. We talked about my daughter getting that news today about her having a full-time, permanent position up on the North Shore. My wife and I have had conversations that say, are we staying in our current house?
Yeah.
And are we staying in our current house? And part of that conversation was, I don't know. Maybe we should, because at some point, if my daughter moves back to the Metro West area, it's an expensive place to live. She might be looking for a house. We might be looking to downsize. We might look at, the timing of that could all come together. So I have to have a conversation with her to say, I'm not suggesting that you don't stay where you are, but it looks like this is really, you're settling in here. I have to have this conversation with my daughter. My other daughter's in New York. I don't think she's ever coming back to Boston. She'll probably stay in New York. So then
New York is turning into like California. Like once they go,
that's right.
They don't come back.
And then I'll have a conversation with my wife. They said, okay, the only thing that was keeping us in this house is the thought of one of them potentially moving back to this area. That doesn't seem like it's happening now. So are we up for the maintenance and the upkeep and the blah, 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 blah? Or do we really say to ourselves, you know what? We could probably drop this thing and drop the property taxes and the maintenance and the cost because we were only living in 3 rooms anyway.
Right.
Maybe this is the time to do it. Let's do it intentionally. Let's not do it after 15 years of deferred maintenance and the house is literally falling in on itself. Let's make a proactive decision. This is it, right?
Yep.
15 years ago, I'd be like, what are you talking about? That conversation, that's not for me. I'm bulletproof.
That's so far away.
It's so far away. Yeah. And it's not. And for people who listen into the show, no matter where you are on this spectrum of life,
on this earth,
this is going to be the same thing. You're either there and again, we're not solving any problems. We're just facilitating a conversation so that you understand your options and you can do better planning.
Yeah, the bottom line is you got to figure out what you want.
Yep.
And we say this all the time. I don't know might be the answer, right? I don't know what I want.
I don't know can be the answer. Yep. It can be the answer.
Sure. And if that's the answer, then accept it, understand it, but understand what that means. Like what is when I say I don't know, it means okay, I'm going to kick this can down the road a little bit further until I do know, or until things are a little more clear for us. And here's what happens. Here's what I could potentially be kind of like giving up, if I sell my house now versus selling my house down the road. Like you said, if I have more maintenance costs or anything, whatever the other variables that play into that equation. The bottom line is think about what it is that you want. And it may take a little while. It may take a little while for you to kind of get to that space. Especially if you're doing it with somebody else, like your spouse, right? If you're kind of, you may want something, she may want something, and maybe that's not exactly what we want. I want to be able to, travel, all over Europe all the time. You're like, well, okay, but then you're not going to. You also want to, spend time, be near the kids. You want to, So if you're traveling all the time and it costs you X amount of dollars, you may not be able to do it all, right?
Well, and the other thing, this happens in stages. Right? This isn't a one-time decision. You mentioned it, you started the show off by talking about 65 looks like this, 75 looks like this, 85 looks like this. So there could be a window that says, look, we got about an 8 to 10 year run here where we think we're going to do some traveling. This is probably the time that we're going to spend the most that we're going to spend in retirement. And this is how we're going to do it. And then at some point, we're going to pump the brakes on that and say, you know what, we did the Europe thing. We did the Viking cruise thing. We did all that stuff. Now it's more about spending a little more time with the grandkids and getting to be part of. So then fine, that you turn that page and then you move on to the, are we going to kind of make some of these moves?
And those stages, and that's the thing. We talked about being flexible because that may change. You may hit 70 years old and you're like, we are just getting going.
Yep.
We're going, let's go see the pyramids. Let's go.
Yeah. Or God forbid, you're going to get a phone call and the phone call is going to be like, you know what? Pyramids, I would not book that trip. You've got these other issues that need attention.
Yeah.
Those things you can never plan for. They're out there. So you just have to you build it into the conversation. This is going to work. This plan works until it doesn't work.
That's right.
And then let's shift gears. Let's be flexible. You say it all the time. Let's be flexible. Let's figure it out. So this is really about kind of leaning into this thing and really, have a plan. Talk amongst yourselves. Figure this thing out. Don't let it happen by accident because, if you sit back and you say, well, we'll figure it out, 5 years are going to go by and you're going to be like, you know what? We didn't figure anything out.
Yeah.
And 5 years at that window of time is, it goes by quick and it's hard to get it back.
5 years, in your late 50s and early 60s is different than 5 years in your late 30s, early 40s.
Absolutely right. Absolutely
right. Those are a lot of things change.
Correct.
A lot more during that time period. So this is why you need to talk to us.
All right. You have your conversation. I'll have my conversation and we'll report back.
All right. And so next time, are we going to do it?
Sure. We'll bring the guitar. We'll bring the guitars next time. We'll bring the guitars.
Play a little E minor.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay. All right. So thank you for joining us today. I hope you all learned something. And again, if you learn nothing from this, the takeaway is that like Jay said, you have to start that conversation, talk about and think about being intentional. Think about what it is that you want, what it is that you want to do. And, however long it takes you to get to whatever that answer is, start talking and thinking about it right now. You won't regret it.
Nope, absolutely not.
All right. We'll see everybody next time.
See you in a week.